You know that feeling when a letter lands on the mat and your stomach tightens before you have even opened it. You think, what now? What have they changed? What have I missed? What am I still paying that nobody explained? And the troubling part is not always a huge bill. Sometimes it is a small charge that keeps slipping out month after month because no one told you it should have stopped. And if you want more of these quiet but important British money rules explained in plain English, do subscribe. Not because anyone needs more noise in their life, because this sort of information is far more useful before the next payment leaves your account. Now, I need to say something right at the start, because this matters. There is no single magic birthday in Britain where 5 bills vanish overnight just because you turned 65. The system is messier than that, and frankly, that is part of the problem. Some charges stop at 60, some at state pension age, some later, and some only if you actually claim what you are due. But here is the central theme I want to keep coming back to today. In later life, the danger is not only being charged too much, it is carrying on paying old charges out of habit, out of worry, or out of that very British feeling that it is safer not to ask. And when the law changes in your favour, habit can become expensive. The first place this shows up is on a payslip, and this one catches people out all the time. You keep doing a few shifts, maybe 2 days a week, in a shop, an office, a school, or behind a reception desk. You are not trying to build a fortune, you just want a bit more breathing room, a reason to get out, and perhaps enough to cover the food shop and the heating. Then one day you look down the payslip and see national insurance still coming off. That is the charge workers pay alongside tax, and once you reach state pension age, you usually stop paying employee national insurance. Not at 65 by default, and not because you feel retired, but when you actually reach state pension age. For most people listening now, that age is 66, which is why so many people assume the old age 65 rule still applies when it does not. The mistake older workers make is assuming payroll will sort it out on its own. Sometimes it does, sometimes it does not. And if you do not notice, a little slice keeps coming off every pay packet while you carry on thinking that is just how it works. It is one of the clearest examples of the system quietly taking money from people who have already crossed the line where that charge should stop. The phrase worth writing down is this: I am over state pension age, so please check that I am no longer paying employee national insurance. If you do not want to show your passport or birth certificate to an employer, you can ask HM Revenue and Customs for a letter confirming it. And if you have been overpaying, you can ask about a refund, which is the sort of phone call many people put off for months when they really should not. I once spoke to the sort of woman I think many of you will recognize straight away. Her name could have been Dorothy. She was 67, widowed, careful with money, and working part-time on a school reception desk. She was the sort of person who kept every envelope in a neat pile and still felt a bit guilty buying herself a better winter coat. When she finally checked her payslips properly, she found national insurance had kept coming off longer than it should have done. It was not enough to make the evening news, but it was enough to matter to her. Enough for a few proper food shops, enough to cover a standing order, enough to stop that constant feeling that everything was edging tighter. That is the point of this whole video, really. If you find these blind spots useful to know about, do stay close and subscribe, because small leaks are often the ones that quietly wear people down. The second charge many older people carry on paying without realising they no longer need to is prescription costs in England. You stand at the pharmacy counter, there is a queue behind you, the assistant is busy, and you just want to get out of the way, so you pay. You do what you have always done because that is what decent people do when they do not want any fuss. But in England, once you are 60 or over, NHS prescriptions are free. That is a genuine age-based exemption, not 65, not retirement, not only if you are on a benefit. If you are 60 or over in England, that charge should not be there in the ordinary way. And yet plenty of people carry on paying because they are in a rush, embarrassed, unsure, or simply never told clearly enough. Now, if you live in Scotland or Wales, prescription rules are different anyway. So this is one of those moments where you live matters. But for viewers in England, the practical phrase is very simple. I am 60 or over, so this prescription should be free under the age exemption. That is not asking for a favour. That is using a rule that already exists. There is one more wrinkle worth knowing, because it saves awkwardness. If your date of birth is printed electronically on the prescription, you usually do not need extra proof of age. That may sound like a tiny detail, but tiny details are exactly where older people end up handing over money they never needed to hand over. And once you know the wording, the whole exchange becomes calmer and easier. What I want you to notice here is the pattern. No one rings you up and says, by the way, you can stop paying this now. The meter only stops if you know it should stop. That is why this channel exists in the first place, to turn confusing rules into plain language you can actually use. And if that feels helpful, you are very welcome to subscribe and keep me company here. The third one is not a bill that arrives in a brown envelope, but it is still money out of your pocket. It is the cost of NHS sight tests, and for many older adults, this matters far more than they realise. Because when your eyes change slowly, you adapt. You move a lamp closer, hold the paper farther away, squint at a bank statement, and tell yourself it can wait a bit longer. In England, if you are 60 or over, you are entitled to a free NHS sight test. That is the rule. Again, not because you are struggling, and not because an optician feels generous that day. It is age-based. The danger is that people confuse a free sight test with free glasses, which is not the same thing, so they avoid going at all. The named relief to remember is not complicated. Ask, am I entitled to the age-based NHS sight test? Those few words can change the whole tone of the appointment. You are not haggling. You are checking a clear entitlement. And for some people, that free test catches changes early, long before they turn into falls, headaches, missed letters, or medication mistakes. There is another useful twist here for viewers outside England too. Official NHS guidance says that if you are 60 or over, you get free NHS sight tests, and in Scotland or Wales, you also get free dental checkups because of age. So the bigger lesson is this. Later, life benefits do not always come with a trumpet blast. Sometimes they arrive as a quiet rule on a website, while ordinary people go on paying because they assume someone would have told them if it mattered. Think about how often money problems begin with something that looked small at first. A delayed eye check, a missed letter, a wrong direct debit, a bit of confusion over forms. That is why I bang on about the boring things. The boring things protect real life. If you like this sort of calm, practical explanation without any nonsense, subscribe when it feels right, because there is plenty more of this to come. The fourth one is bus fares, and this is another classic case of people paying because the system is not automatic. You reach a stage in life when driving at night feels less appealing, parking feels more irritating, and the local bus suddenly looks a good deal more sensible. So you tap your card, pay the fare, and get on with it. You may do that for months before someone casually says, have you not got your older person's pass? In England, free off-peak bus travel becomes available when you reach state pension age. Not 65 as a neat old-fashioned rule, but state pension age. At the moment, that is 66 for most people. In London and the devolved nations, there are different arrangements, which is why two friends living in different parts of the UK can have very different experiences and both think they are right. That confusion alone costs people money. The important phrase here is this: I would like to apply for my older person's bus pass. Not, am I old enough for a concession? Not, is there anything you can do for me? Ask for the actual pass by name. Because this is one of those benefits that often sits there waiting to be claimed while people carry on funding journeys they no longer need to pay for. And I think this one carries a deeper lesson too. Mobility is not just about transport. It is about freedom, confidence, and not becoming smaller than your own life. When an older person skips trips because every outing feels like another cost, the world narrows. A free bus pass may sound modest, but modest things can hold a life open. If this point has already made you think of your own mum, your brother, your neighbour across the road, or even yourself standing at a bus stop with a bank card in hand, keep this information close. Better still, stay subscribed if these are the sorts of practical protections you want explained simply and calmly. Because once you see how many rules are claim-based rather than automatic, you start noticing the whole system differently. The fifth one is not for everyone over 65, and I want to be careful here, because this is exactly where confusion causes trouble. It is the TV license. A lot of people vaguely remember hearing that pensioners do not have to pay it. That is not the full rule. And when people work from half memories, they either keep paying when they may not need to, or stop paying when they still do. The current rule is that a free TV license applies if you are 75 or over and you get pension credit, or you live with a partner who gets it. That is the key trigger, not age alone. Pension credit is the gateway, and that matters because many older people who are entitled to pension credit never claim it. So the real hidden bill here is often not just the license fee itself. It is the missed pension credit claim that would have unlocked it. Let me give you a very ordinary story. Alan is 77, his wife June is 74, and between them they live carefully, but not comfortably. He still says things like, "We manage," even when what he really means is we cut back. Their TV license direct debit goes out quietly each month, and they never question it because they assume free licenses were abolished, and that was that. Then a neighbour mentions pension credit over the garden fence. Suddenly, the picture changes. If they qualify for pension credit, the TV license can become free, and that same claim may also open the door to extra help with other costs. This is why one missed claim has a knock-on effect. The phrase worth remembering is, "Can you check whether pension credit or another reduced TV license rule applies in my household?" That sentence can lead to a much bigger conversation than most people expect. There are two more details that are easy to miss here. If someone is registered blind, there is a half-price TV license. And if someone lives in certain residential care or sheltered accommodation settings, there may be a very reduced license available instead. So once again, the law is not saying every older person pays the same forever. It is saying, under certain later life conditions, that charge changes, but only if somebody actually checks. That is really the heart of this whole conversation. The British system rarely walks into your living room, sits down nicely and says you can stop paying this now. It leaves clues. It expects forms. It relies far too much on older people, either already knowing the rule or having the energy to chase it. If this channel helps you feel less alone with that and more steady on your feet, subscribe and let's keep going together. Now, before we close, I want to say one very important thing about council tax, energy bills, and all the other household costs people ask me about. There is no broad rule that simply says over 65 means you are legally exempt. Sometimes there are discounts, reductions, or support schemes, but they are usually based on income, household makeup, disability, or a specific benefit, not age alone. That matters because bad advice spreads fast, and false hope is its own kind of cruelty. So if you take one practical ritual away from this video, make it this. Pick one quiet hour this week, make a cup of tea, get a pen, and check 5 things in order. Your pay slip for national insurance if you still work, your prescription status, your sight test entitlement, your bus pass eligibility, and whether pension credit could unlock a free TV license. Not all in panic, just calmly, one by one. And if someone comes to mind while you are listening, do one kind thing. Send this video to the parent who still pays first and asks questions later, or the neighbour who never claims anything because they think others need it more. Or the friend, sibling, or widowed aunt who says, "I'm sure it's all fine," when deep down they are not sure at all. Sometimes sharing information is as useful as lending money, because the truth is, later life money problems are not always caused by extravagance. Very often they are caused by silence, pride, tiredness, and rules that were never explained in plain English. That is why I keep returning to the same central theme. You do not protect your money only by earning more. You protect it by knowing which payments still belong to you and which ones should have stopped. I want to leave you with a simple picture. Think of your finances like a row of old taps under the kitchen sink. For years, every one of them has been turned on a little, drip after drip, charge after charge, just part of the background noise of adult life. But later on, some of those taps are meant to be turned off by law, and if nobody reaches down and checks, they carry on dripping into the dark. You do not need to fix everything in one afternoon. You do not need to become an expert in every rule. You just need to stop assuming that every bill still has your name on it forever. A calmer retirement often begins with one quiet discovery that the money leaving your account was never meant to leave at all.